Let's crack open a beer and share some thoughts.
Welcome to Hopinions, and we are back in the comfort of our own studio.
We are back in the studio, and it's just the two of us, Steve.
It is just the two of us. It's been a while since it's just been the two of us.
It's been a long while. We've been on the road.
We have indeed, and we hope that the listeners have enjoyed what they've heard.
Well, the Seba trilogy.
Yes.
And the one that got away, but we'll come to that in a minute.
We will cover that in a moment. But tonight on Opinions, we are going to be covering your desert island bar choices, which is kind of the second in our fantasy theme series.
Yeah, which I think the fantasy theme series will appear here and there, every now and again, when it feels appropriate. And let's face it, it's a wet, cold, miserable November Monday. What could be better than thinking about your perfect desert island bar and choice of drinks?
I think that's just about right for tonight. And massive thanks to Joe Hill at Multiplex Rant for suggesting this one as well.
Yeah,
but we will come on to that a little bit later on. Now, as you mentioned in the introduction there was the show that got away. And we are currently enjoying beers that were given to us as a result of that show.
Yes, so for avid listeners of the show, they will be aware that we were intending to record what I'm sure would have been a corking show with Chris Hall of Howling Hops at the Tank Bar on a quiet Monday night. However, didn't quite go to plan, unfortunately. But Chris was very, very kind to us, basically apologising for customers enjoying themselves and give us a few takeaways. The first of which is the Pale XX, American Pale Ale, 5.1%. I want to say in their new cans, but I suppose these have been around for about 6 months now, haven't they? So,
yeah, maybe a bit longer than that for some of them as well.
Cheers, Steve.
Cheers. That's really easy, isn't it?
It's very easy.
Really, really light.
It's a little bit more fruity than I'd expect from an American Pale Ale.
Yeah,
feels like they're really getting the most out of the hops they've decided to use in this one. I'm not really sure. Does it say what ones we've got?
No, I don't think it does.
But it feels like they've really maxed out on, almost. It's an American Pale Ale, but it feels like it's almost like somewhere sitting quite very comfortably between West and East Coast.
Yeah, because it's got a soft, juicy finish rather than a crisp, bitter finish that I might associate more with an American Pale Ale.
Yeah, and it's very, very drinkable, and I think it's definitely starting to set the scene for the Desert Island Bar.
Oh, absolutely, and as you say, massive thanks to Chris for sending us home with these and a few other beers as well, which we're going to be enjoying tonight. But fear not, folks, because although the intended show with Chris didn't quite go to plan, we do have something planned for Chris and Howling Hops in January.
Yeah,
don't we? As a bit of a backup, as a bit of something a bit different.
Yeah, a bit of a triannuary theme.
Yes, yeah.
Also, it's going to be a bit of a bonus episode. I think we're going to release it as. Yeah.
So I think we'll leave that there for now. Actually,
I think
just leave that as a bit of a tease.
After all, it is January. I mean, there's a lot to go between now and January.
Yeah, we are only in November. Let's always remember that.
It's only November, is it? Is it? It's not Christmas then, Steve.
It's not Christmas, no, because Christmas belongs in December, children. Why we mull over that particular comment? Let's have a little look back over some of the highlights in terms of some of the things that we've been up to in the last few months while we've been out on the road.
Yeah, I mean, listeners again will probably notice that we tend to avoid doing the beer adventures when we've got the guests on, because there's so much to talk about with them anyway, about their journey, their history, what they're up to. That throwing in a few beer adventures just would take too long.
And also it becomes a bit self-indulgent, doesn't it? If we're sat there talking about us and you've got a guest sitting there thinking,
exactly. What about me?
Why am I on this show?
Why have you invited me? So I can listen to you two. So yeah, I mean, I suppose the obvious place to start, Steve, is Guinness.
Yes, International Stout Day.
International Stout Day. Thank you very much to Podrick Fox and the guys at Diageo for inviting us over. We had a couple of days out there, so 6th and 7th of November.
Yeah.
Or 7th and 8th, I can't remember which way. It's 7th and 8th it might have been. out on the Thursday, back on the Friday, particularly wet Thursday in Dublin.
Yes, it was very.
Yes.
It was
Top
chucking it
tip,
down,
if it's
wasn't it?
peeing it down in Dublin, do not use road transport. It doesn't work.
No, but also maybe go to the storehouse on a wet day because it's empty.
It was, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, there
properly
wasn't
empty.
a lot of tourists.
I think
there.
it just put people off just trying to. I know it's only mile and a half outside the centre, but on a wet day, it's probably just you can dip this plenty of other things to do.
Yes.
But yeah, we had a lovely day again. We were lucky enough to get a little look into the archives again. Saw a few different things compared to last year.
Yeah,
I thought it was really interesting.
Some interesting stuff about some of their labelling as well in terms of how they in the past when they used to send the casks of beer over to England from Ireland, they used to allow publicans to basically bottle their own Guinness and therefore create their own labels, and all of those labels went back to the archives into a big book there.
However, if you decided to bottle it and claim it was Guinness and it wasn't, you would be named and shamed.
Yes, and you'd have to make a very public
apology,
wouldn't you?
In your local paper and the national press as well.
Yeah.
They showed us a cutting of one, and really no holds barred apology there. Not like a red top tabloid these days where the apology is tucked away on page 16 in the bottom left hand corner where you can't find it. This was a proper apology, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
So that was really interesting. There was plenty of other guests were present as well. So I just stood there, watched and listened. To be honest, it was just really fascinating as ever. Then we had a very nice lunch with everyone. Bit of some oysters, which I've only had once before. I rather enjoyed that. And they did a bit of it was basically fish themed, and it was paired with Guinness, the West India Porter,
various versions of Guinness that are available.
Foreign export. Yeah. So that was really nice. Then I think one of the highlights was a visit to the roasting room, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean that place is incredible.
Yeah.
Just the smell that you get when you walk into it of sort of roasted malts is just, it absolutely blows you away.
Yeah, and then we had a little talk from a couple of the guys there. They got reminded the magic number 232 degrees Fahrenheit. That's when they want it to stop, and that's when at some point close to that, that's when someone will just test it.
Yes,
it's when a human being will test that it's what they want. If not, it's done. Goodbye. That batch isn't being used. So that was a highlight. I think we learned a little bit more compared to last year.
Yeah, because we had a bit of a chat from a couple of the roasters, didn't we? They're actually involved, and then from there we went on to see the brewery again, the Brewhouse 4, which is like this magical science fiction type.
Oh, it is.
Room full of stainless steel cones that give you the impression that there's a lot more going on underneath them that you can't see.
Yeah, so you're sort of on the upper floor. Feels like there's 2 floors below you, and that's where a lot of the work's going on. But it does look amazing, and you could easily dress that for a sci-fi film.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
And then at the end of it, and this was the bit which I think a few of the people from Guinness were really looking forward to presenting. It was literally about the yeast itself, wasn't it? And about some yeast. They've been doing like some history of the yeast and the DNA of the yeast, and they had a proper. I mean, as you'll know from me and Steve's lack of facts often on this show, they had a proper scientist presenting it to us, and I have to admit, I've got no problem admitting that a lot of it went way over my head, but I learned that some of the yeast is closely aligned to the US and to England.
Yes, yeah, and then the thing that still stood out for me was that you had US yeast, which had its very own distinct profile, and then you had UK yeast, which had its own distinct profile, and then you had Guinness yeast, which had its own distinct profile.
And I suppose the thing which resonated for me when they talked about that, I kept on likening it to my experience with Belgian beers. When they say about the Belgian yeast, it's very distinctive, and that's what gives those Belgian-y characteristics that we like to quote in just one word, Belgian-y. So again, lovely way to finish off, and then it was down to the important bit of the evening, which was sampling the stouts they had on offer.
Yeah, and it was all stouts from Ireland.
It was an all-Ireland affair. It was like the Gaelic Games.
To see.
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic.
And there were some corkers there as well.
Yes,
there were some really nice stouts. I had to admit, by the end of the evening, I was looking for a non-stout, but then carried on drinking Guinness anyway, so that didn't really happen. But again, the guys behind the bar, everyone involved with Diageo, thank you ever so much for looking after us, and
without a doubt,
for taking us out there as well.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, wonderful event. Really good atmosphere in the Open Gate Brewery, and anytime if you're in Dublin and you think, I don't want to do the storehouse because it is going to be Guinness, yes, it will be, but find the Open Gate Brewery and you can find a little bit different to get the usual Guinness affair.
Yeah, because they've got kind of pilot brews that they do in the Open Gate that they only serve in the Open Gate Brewery, but they do tend to have a few guest beers occasionally as well.
And we have started the campaign for them to have cask Guinness in the Open
we
Gate
want
Brewery.
we want to see that next year, don't
Yeah, so hashtag cask Guinness, that's what we're after.
Yeah.
And the Friday, Steve, that was a bit of a sunny day actually. It turned out really nice.
It was a nice day. We had the day to ourselves. So there was you and I.
Yeah, it wasn't just us.
We were also joined by Matt Chinnery at Half Pint Gent, and also by Mark Johnson, who was out there as well. And the four of us had a little bit of a crawl around Dublin.
We did. We had a bar crawl.
Yeah.
Although we did spend 3 hours in the first pub.
We did, but the first pub is a pub that deserves that amount of time to be spent on it because it appeared in our fantasy pub crawl list. We spent the first 3 hours of the day at Alfie Burns, which is Galway Bay Bar. Just a great beer selection.
Well, there was about a dozen Galway Bay beers and a few other specials. We did indulge in the Wolf Brewery 12.5% Impy Stout at the end of the lunchtime session.
Just a small pour of that though, wasn't it, Martin?
Yeah. I need to remember thirds of litres rather than
when ordering a third in an Irish bar, you're essentially ordering a third of a litre, not a third of a pint.
And that's what we got.
Yes.
However, at least it was very nice.
It's made for a fun rest of the day, didn't it? Let's be honest.
I think we then moved on to the not the main porterhouse in Temple, but another one.
Porterhouse Central.
Central. Very different feel to that one.
Very long bar.
Yeah. So we had a couple in there. Quick visit to Underdog, but that was quite busy in there, weren't it? I think we hit it probably just everyone coming out of work time.
I think we hit it at peak 5 p.m. on Friday.
Yeah.
So it was after work drinks, before going home, that sort of thing. We just stayed for the one in there, and then we just kind of searched out a few more traditional sort of bars, didn't we? That were just bars that kind of are known for doing good Guinness, but also might have a few other things. And I think the standout kind of surprise for us was a bar called O'Neill's. Because Mark was joking that he wanted to go. I want to go to an O'Neill's. And obviously, what we're talking about here is the chain O'Neill's that don't think exists anymore over here.
I think there's one or two still, but dying breed, perhaps.
Yeah, but we did find a bar called O'Neill's, and my word, the selection of beer in that place.
That was really good.
They must have had about 16, 18 different craft Irish beers across their taps.
It was a nice pub.
Yeah, and we spent a while in there, didn't we?
And why not? It was a really nice pub. We did. There was a couple of bars towards the end of the Friday night which weren't to our liking, but I think it became a bit more of a Friday night out. The couple of places we chose, and that was, we were making our way back to the hotel. We probably could have chosen better for maybe the last couple of pubs, but didn't detract at all from what was a fantastic day out with good friends and having some really nice beers.
Just an amazing couple of days. Though, and just to reiterate your earlier thanks to Padraig and to the team at Guinness and Diageo for extending the invite to us and for looking after us while we're out there.
Yeah, can't say thank you enough. So brilliant. Steve.
Yes.
Other than the 2-day trip to Guinness, which broke Mr. Johnson.
It broke me a little bit on the way home as well, and I know Matt was suffering a little bit on the way home.
What else have you been up to, mate?
Well, just a couple of things really. A couple of highlights. First one was a couple of weeks back. There was a Cloudwater takeover at the Ale House in Chelmsford. So they sent down, I think it was 6 cask beers, a whole load of keg beers, and they also sent down that lovable rogue Conor Murphy.
Sent Conor with the beer.
With the beer. He actually did turn up carrying a box of beer.
Fair enough.
As well, because he had some samples of this year's limited edition bottle releases
All right.
that are coming out in a couple of weeks for folk to try. So he did literally turn up carrying a box of it. But no, I mean, across their range, there were obviously all of the stuff that Cloudwater do really well. There was a lot of pale ales, one of their lagers, a few IPAs. There was double IPA. There was a triple, and then one of the cask beers was a stout called Proper, which had been brewed in collaboration with Salt Beer Factory, where Colin Strong is now, and Colin is famed for his ability with dark beers, particularly the stouts. But the reason why they brewed this particular beer is because one of the Cloudwater brewers, Jake, was leaving Cloudwater to move on, but Jake used to work at Buxton when Colin was there. So they used to work together at Buxton, and they said to Jake, "You can brew two beers as like leaving beers. What do you want to do, and who do you want to brew with?" And his first thing was, "I want to brew with Colin, and I want to brew a stout." So basically, they recreated the recipe that used to be known as Buxton's Extra Strong Stout, which was named after Colin when he joined the brewery. Oh my word, mate! I had it on cask, and it was just incredible. I had it the next night because I had a can of it as well. Had the can the next night, and the can was nowhere near as good as this cask version.
Sometimes
of the beer.
on some of those, the dispense does matter.
Yeah, but it was interesting because what Connor was saying was that obviously Cloudwater don't produce a lot of cask beer still, and generally what they tend to produce, they tend to keep either for the Manchester area or for a few selected locations, one of which being their own tap room,
or particularly for tap takeovers.
Yeah, so. Obviously, Connor, knowing that this event was happening, for the last few months has literally been siphoning off the odd cask of beer as it's been produced and kind of saving it for this event. So it was great to see a brewery from outside of London, the south, the region, actually taking that much care about a tap takeover that is essentially hundreds of miles away from where they are.
Yeah. It is. It's in Essex, where a lot of breweries can't seem to find their way to out of any part of the region outside of Essex.
Its closeness to London, you'd think it'd be quite easy.
I mean, it does sound really good. I mean, they had a Cloudwater tap takeover a couple of days before I was in Vessel in Plymouth in September, and obviously there was one at the Vic last year.
Yeah,
when they did when they brought cask back again into their stable, and as part of the Crimbo crawl, we're going to be lucky enough to be paying a visit to Cloudwater as well.
Yes, we are. I'm very much looking forward to that.
Hopefully, get to taste a few nice beers then as well. So that sounds like a good one. Was it busy in the Ale House?
It was busy. Kind of around early on, around the after work period. I mean, they had most of the beers had been on since when they opened at 11. So, but nothing was close to running out on that Thursday night. And Connor did take a group of people through a tasting of a number of beers as well. So, not only did he give us the opportunity to taste the couple of special bottles that he brought down, he took us through, I think it was a PAL, an IPA, and a double IPA as well, and talked about the process in making the beers, the yeast profile, how they make their beers taste and look like they do. And so it was more than kind of one of those, because sometimes these tap takeovers, Meet the Brewers, can be a bit, they'll send someone along as a bit of a token gesture, and that person will just kind of stand there at the end of the bar and might talk to a few people but won't really go any further than that. This was brilliant because Connor was like, he must have had a group of at least 10 to 15 people talking to them about the beers and chatting to them about the beers. And I think, hats off to Cloudwater and to Connor for coming down and doing that.
Yeah, no, well done indeed. And I think there was a few people in attendance who knew.
Yep, a few of the bottle share gang were in attendance. So Matt was there, Clayton was there, Justin was in, Dan was there. So
any special guest appearances from anyone? Did number one fan pop in?
Yes. So I completely forgot about that. It was like I felt as though you were searching for a particular name, and I'm like, no. Is there supposed to be someone that I was supposed to be mentioning? Apologies. Yes, Paul at UNRCD came along for the takeover as well, having previously gone to the Vic prior to that. Like, so
he was determined to make the most of his train ticket that day.
Absolutely, yeah. He went to he took a few hours off work, went to the Vic first, had a couple of beers with Rich, and then he came over to the Ale House as well. But yeah, it was a great evening. It was a good evening had by all.
Well, coincidentally, my other, I've got only a couple of beer adventures, but one of them is a visit to the Hope pub in Carshalton, which I know has been long mentioned by many people about being a bastion of good beer, especially cask beer. And it is number one fan Paul's local, effectively.
Yes, he's in there at least once a week, if not more.
I think generally the Thursdays is nice, isn't it? So their takings must have been down when he was at the Ale House drinking Cloudwater the other week. But friend of ours, Dan from Boxshare, just happened to message me on the day to our general group saying he was going over there. Michelle was out. I didn't actually have anything planned, and I went, yeah, right. Takes for ages to get to bloody Carshalton. It's only about 13 or 14 miles outside London, but it's one of those trains that stops everywhere.
Oh my word, sounds like a nightmare.
It did feel like it went on forever, but the station where I could get the train from wasn't too far away from work. So got over there. Pub is a couple of minutes walk away from the station, so at least that's handy. And it is a really nice pub. It's actually deceptively big as well. When you first go in, it has what I assume is the original building, quite small, quite intimate, feels very local. But even then, you can start to spot a few decent beers on the bar. I mean, I could see Dark Arts from Magic Rock was on cask, so I'd already noted that as one to have later on in the evening, and a few other nice beers. Then you go out to another bit at the back, then another bit, then they've got a big outside bit, and then a permanent marquee where they do their regular beer festivals.
Wow.
And I will say this, I'm not going to go through all the beers. The beers on Gravity that I did have were all in excellent condition. So for me, combination of the skill of the brewer and being vented, tapped, delivered the right way as well. Highlight beer was actually a keg beer though. Having said all of that, it was a beer called Night Owls, a 14% Impy Stout from Hackney Brewery on keg, which blew me away completely. Very smooth. Just had like a small third, proper small third.
An actual third.
It might even be a third of a third. Might be a third of a third. 4.5 out of 5 on Untapped. Really tasty, really drinkable. You knew you were drinking alcohol, but none of that boozy burn was going on. Any hints of alcohol were just all very complimentary to all those lovely dark chocolate coffee flavours. Really smooth. So well done, Hackney Brewery. That's a cracking beer.
That was part of that Skyline project,
yes.
Wasn't it, that Jager spoke about?
It's another reason why I went for it.
Yeah.
Because it had already been mentioned.
Paul gave me a can of that when he was over.
Because he won't like it.
Because he bought the box, and he was umming and ahhing about whether to buy the box, and he DM'd me and he was like, if I buy the box, do you want the stout? And I was like, obviously. and yeah, I had that recently, and I just echo everything. So even from the can, it was thick, velvety smooth, but full on coffee all the way through.
It looked like an espresso when I had it.
Just a nice touch of sweetness right at the end of it. Really well balanced. A really, for 14%, a really dangerous beer.
Very dangerous
as well.
Very dangerous beer. But no, had a really lovely time. If you are in that part of South East London, I want to say, or just on the outskirts of South East London, the Hope and Carshalton, I think, is one of those must-visit kind of pubs. You will enjoy it. I don't know if they do much in the way of food, but they do plenty in the way of beer. So you'll enjoy it, and I had a really good evening. I will return. I just maybe plan it as more of a day out kind of thing.
Right,
so I'm not having to come out
of an evening.
Yeah, trying to get back, because it's a 50-minute journey back into London. So we had to get the one into Victoria. Then it's a tube over from Victoria. Then a train up.
And that's not the easiest of journeys, Victoria back to Liverpool Street. Either.
It's not when you want to do it at 11:30.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. So no, that was really good. My last one was I had a day out this Saturday in Hadley in Suffolk. Small town where my mate Carl lives, with him and his Mrs. Hannah. Michelle came along. Pubs are nice. It was one of those, it was just a day out with mates, to be honest. We watched a bit of football, went out, drank some beer, came back, watched some more football, that kind of thing. However, out of 4 pubs, I've managed to find Landlord on cask and Ghost Ship on cask.
Happy days for you.
So I was pretty chuffed about all of that.
Yeah, I'm sure you was.
Yeah. Do you want any more? Yes, I'll have another Landlord, or I'll have another Ghost Ship. Perfect. Martin goes tick.
everything you're looking for there.
Exactly. So no, that's me sort of done really.
Oh, okay. Well, while you were out in Hadley at the weekend, I was in Colchester, and Emma and I went for an afternoon at the Vic.
Nice.
Because we had a free weekend to ourselves, so we were going out for dinner in the evening. We were going to the Swan in Stratford St Mary. Realised that there is a bus that goes from Colchester town centre to the Swan, so we decided to make the most of it, go and have an afternoon at the Vic. Because in particular there was one beer on that I really wanted to try, which was from Leon C, because Rich has finally managed to get some Leon C beers
brilliant.
in. So he had the Old Lee Ale, the old ale that they did as a collaboration with Fable.
Yeah.
Now I thought that beer had only been done for the Rochford Beer Festival.
I thought it had only been done for that.
But Rich had a cask of it, and he had a second cask in the cellar as well. So they must have made more of it than maybe they suggested. But it was cracking, an absolute cracking pint as an old ale, like really really sweet, like lots of raisiny notes, bit of fruitcake in there as well. 5.5.
Okay.
So I had 2 pints of it. I had one to start with, and then I had another one to finish with.
No, so bookended.
Yes,
bookended your session with old ale.
So. Yeah, but he also had SS9 on keg as well. So that was quite nice to have that as a mid-afternoon break as well.
Mid-afternoon, wheels come off.
Yeah, 9% beer. But no, it's always nice to spend an afternoon at the Vic. Particularly, you'll know, if you hit that sweet spot on a Saturday, it can actually be quite quiet.
Yeah.
So we just got to sit at the bar, we were chatting to Rich, chatting to a few other people around us. Just a really nice afternoon before we jumped on the bus and went to the Swan.
Oh, brilliant! An afternoon in the Vic is always going to be a good tick in the beer adventure diary.
It is, yeah. We've mentioned a lot of pubs that featured on that fantasy pub crawl.
Well, we have
that we did tonight.
You know, that's why they're on there in the first place for us.
That's true. It's not about
a visit to Dublin. We go to Alfie Burns.
Yeah.
Chelmsford, it's the Ale House. Colchester, it's the Vic.
Yeah.
So straight away, there's 3.
Ticking them all off.
Yeah, exactly. I have almost finished the Howling Hops American Pale Ale XX. Really enjoying it.
It's really, really drinkable. Like I say, it's fairly light. What is it? 5.1%.
Yeah.
The only thing for me, style wise, it's probably slightly too juicy on the finish for me. I would have maybe liked a bit more bitterness in there.
I think because of it isn't saying it's an IPA, I'm going to be a bit more forgiving on that. I think the fruitiness, they can just about get away with it because it didn't start to go to some sort of thickness or anything like that. They just were maxing out the fruit all the way through rather than fruit just at the start.
I don't know. I think for me, if you're going to call something an American Pale Ale, my benchmark for that is Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, which has a nice crisp bitter finish to it. So
I mean, I agree with you. That's the benchmark, but I don't think this is more of a evolution of it rather than a revolution.
It is, but this is also an evolution of one of their earlier beers that they used to sell purely at the Tank Bar.
Yes.
As well, which I can't remember what it was.
Was it the lower ABV version?
Possibly, yeah.
But I think you would get a lot of people interested in this one, the Pale XX. I don't think this is one of those beers which I can't picture it being much better. I think can and keg is where it's probably going to shine.
I don't know. I think a pint of that on cask might be quite interesting.
Actually, I think it would lose something for me, which is unusual for me to say that.
Yeah.
So I think, but it's very nice though.
Yeah. Well, throw another little teaser in there. What we are planning to do with Chris in January, we may get to try various dispense methods of Howling Hops beers.
Well, that was part of the plan. So when I said triannuary, it's going to be various different versions of triannuary.
Yeah.
We're going to try and cover all bases on the triannuary.
Wrapped up in one.
In one heady afternoon.
Yes.
I'm not going to say anything else. Right, you have got some news to share while I crack open the next beers.
I have. I will finish the beer as I'm going through the news. As I'm getting your hot takes on these news items, in fact. So, first up, news of another takeover. This time in America of the much loved New Belgium Brewery.
Well,
would we say?
Maybe put it another way. I've never seen anything. I've never seen anything detrimental about them. come out, and when they were talking about it, it seems that it's worker owned.
It is, so 100% employee owned. Founded in 1991 in Fort Collins, and then in 2016 expanded to Asheville in Colorado. Quite a big brewery in terms of their output. Most famous for Fat Tire.
Yeah.
Is it? Which
Definitely.
That's just a straight up pale ale.
Yeah, I think so. Let's have a quick look.
So the news broke that they're set to join Lion Little World Beverages, which is the global craft beer division of Australian brewer Lion, which is in part owned by Kirin, same brewery that has invested in Four Pure and Magic Rock over here. They acquired 100% of New Belgium in an all-cash transaction as well. Well, I say they acquired, it still has to be approved by the employees that own the business, but they don't see there being
They're getting
any
quite,
issue with that.
I know it's not the only factor, but by all accounts, they're getting quite a decent return.
Yes, so although no longer employee owned, each of the more than 300 employees will be receiving over $100,000 of retirement money, with some receiving significantly greater amounts. That's a hell of a return on an investment of owning part of a brewery, isn't it?
Just going back to the Fat Tire, according to Untapped, it comes up as a red ale or American Amber. But I would still say that's the one. But
one they're most known for.
Yeah, the one I really enjoyed when I was in the States was the Citradelic Tangerine IPA. I bought a lot of that from Safeway when I was in the States.
Yeah,
that one I really did enjoy. But yeah, I've only ever seen good things about it. I mean, again, I'm sure there are in these kind of things, and I'm sure in the States it'd be much more gnashing and wailing of teeth than perhaps over here because we're not so close to it. But if someone's going to give you an extra 100,000 into your retirement plan, and depending what the tax laws are on your retirement plan, depending where you live, a lot of that could be some of that could be tax free as well.
Yeah,
it's not a bad pension pot to have tucked away.
It's not at all. So
I think it'd be hard to begrudge anyone making that kind of return if they've been part of this cooperative almost. They've helped the company, they've helped develop the company, they've bought into the ethos of the company. Some people won't like it. At the moment, for me, it might mean, but I actually get to see some of the beers I like from them over here.
Well, that's the potential, isn't it? Because if straight away you're thinking of Lion and their investments in the UK, are we going to see the likes of New Belgium's beers now being imported into those?
Well, you could see them at the, I don't know, maybe you see them at the Magic Rock tap room, the Four Pure tap room, where they've got access to bars and pubs and taps. Look, I'm not saying we're taking away the rights and wrongs and whether it's squeezing other people. Like I said, I really enjoyed some of the beers when I was over there, so I'd happily, even if they ended up in the supermarket.
Yeah. Well, the HQ is due to remain in Fort Collins, and the CEO and management team are staying, which again is the same as what we've seen.
Very same model as Four Pure Magic Rock.
Takeovers here. I suppose the only real downside, I'm sure there are more downsides that people could dig into if they wanted to, but probably the one from the point of view of New Belgium's status as a craft brewery in the States, because they'll no longer fall under that 25% ownership rule, and it means they'll no longer be considered as part of the Craft Brewers Association of America.
They know that when they go for that kind of deal, don't they? Because that's very clear, that particular line, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
It's quite clear. Before you give us a second bit, I just thought I'd say I have opened the second beer, and you're going to do some talking as I'm going to do some listening. I want to drink it, so I should introduce it first of all. Again, Howling Hops, New Old London, 440ml can of porter, coming in at 4.8%.
Oh, nice, light, easy drinking water. Cheers.
Oh, that's a lovely aroma. Little bit of smoke.
Some smoke on the nose there.
Maybe a bit of bread as well.
Yeah,
toast, burnt toast,
and then just giving way to it's toast and coffee.
Oh, that is delicious. Now the first beer got us set for the desert island. This beer's brought us right back to November.
Absolutely, but it's perfect.
Yeah, this is a November beer, but isn't it nice to have what I presume, judging by the label, is pretty much an adjunct-free porter, under 5%, but damn tasty. Lovely dry finish as well.
It's a session porter.
Yeah, dry finish.
Yeah.
Really good. Sorry, you can now do the second bit of the news because I'm now going to carry on drinking this.
Well, while you're enjoying that, second bit of the news, fairly quick one, but couldn't let this one pass us by because it does involve the nicest man in brewing, stroke the nicest man on Twitter. There's a lot of people like to refer to him as. So Andy at Elusive Brewing. It's great news to hear that they've now formally launched their taproom.
Brilliant.
At Elusive Brewing as well. So they'll be open Fridays and Saturdays throughout December. I imagine they'll be looking at what their opening hours will be from that point forward in the new year. But from what I understand, it's literally the unit next door to the brewery. No signage at the moment, so but they are putting various events on Facebook and Twitter. So if you're in the area, if you've tried Andy's beers before, you'll know how great they are. If you've met Andy before, you know how friendly and welcoming he is. You can just imagine the combination of Andy and his beers in his own tap room. It's just going to be such a welcoming environment.
Firstly, well done, Andy, and secondly, good luck with it.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's hope the effort and time he's put into it works. From the pictures I've seen, he's got a lot of tellies with some retro games consoles as well.
It seems appropriate, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, matches his brand perfectly.
Yeah, and you've now got the Siren tap room not far away as well, so you can make a mini day of it now with two places to go to.
And that's it really for the news. Not really a lot. It's kind of that time of year where generally the biggest beery news tends to be, here's our annual release, here's our big Christmas release.
That's what it's going to be now. You're not going to have, I'd be very surprised if you suddenly have any more new Belgium type takeovers going on on the run up to Christmas.
Yeah, it's going to quieten down a bit now.
That'd be my expectation anyway, but if there is any news and we think it's worth sharing, we'll share it.
Absolutely. And that brings us nicely on to this week's question.
Opinions, 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 opinions.
Which was the Desert Island Bar question from Joe Hill at Multiplex Rant. Joe's original question was in response to following our first fantasy show, which was the Fantasy Pub Crawl. We did put out a tweet saying, what other fantasy themes would you like to see? And this response from Joe actually garnered quite a lot of response initially.
At the time.
As well. So Joe's question quite simply was, you get 2 cask pumps, 3 keg taps, 3 bottled beers in the fridge and 2 snacks, and that's it forever. The draft and the snacks remain magically fresh. The bottles you can age if you like. So that was Joe's challenge. We've got a load of responses. Mm-hmm. So in total, just over 40 responses, I think it was in the end.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, to both Joe's original question and to our retweet of the question. We'll go through some of the folks' responses in a while, and we've also what I did was did a tally of what everyone was saying, and actually have created the ultimate Twitter bar as well in terms of what were the most popular responses to go across those taps.
So how do you want to do ours? So shall we do our 2 cask beers first? Do you want to share your 2 cask beers?
Yes. Let's do
it that way.
Let's do it that way. Yeah. So my cask beers, and I'm going to put a rider on this straight away.
This caveat applies to all formats. Everything else, go for it.
Both of my cask beers are served through sparklers.
Given for you. I mean, to be honest, I will take one of mine. I'll take sparkler. Yeah, carry
on. So first one, marble pint, because I wanted something that was light, sessionable, just drink all day long.
Why? Because you've got to travel home somewhere. You're on a desert island.
And if it's going to magically refill and it's going to always be fresh,
yeah. So I'm happy with that. Our beer is perfectly dispensed every time.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, we've added some caveats into this as well, haven't we? So yeah, every pour is perfect.
Yeah.
Well, it would be because it's through a sparkler. So, and then my second cask beer, and I did spend a lot of time thinking about what I wanted my second one to be, and I did also spend time looking at all of my choices, and then looking at the styles and trying to make sure I had something for every
Cool,
style.
you spent longer than I did.
Oh, yeah, I put maybe too much thought into this. But my second one is Magic Rock, Common Grounds on cask through a sparkler.
Okay. Not quite a stat, but there might be a similar.
In a dimpled mug as well. I'd like that one.
Because you're back in the Magic Rock tap room.
Yes, because that's how I want it served. So those are my two
So just to sum up, Marble Arch Pint
Yes,
and Magic Rock Common Grounds.
that's it. Those are my cask.
Not a bad starting point. I mean, if you walked into a pub, you'd be quite happy with that
I'd
choice.
be more than
if
happy.
they only had 2 cask pumps and that was it,
I'm done. I'm done for the day. Just sit me there. That's what I'm drinking.
don't move me till I fall off the chair.
Yeah.
Mine aren't going to be surprise.
Did we do this thing where I guess them both again?
No, I'm not going to give you that pleasure because so the first one, Ghost Ship,
Obviously.
and the second one, Jaipur.
Obviously, as well. So you said you said one of them served to a sparkler.
Jaipur.
Jaipur, you wouldn't have you wouldn't ever
I
go.
don't think I've ever experienced Ghost Ship through a sparkler pour because I tend to only have Ghost Ship in the south of the country.
Yeah.
So, having not experienced it, but enjoyed it very well conditioned without one, I'm not going to stick myself on a desert island with a sparkler and maybe not enjoy it.
Fair enough. Fair point.
So let's assume you can't take the sparkler off once it's on there.
Well, no, because it's welded on.
That's especially on your taps.
Yeah, that's not coming off ever.
So yeah, Ghost Ship. I took no time at all with my 2 cask beers.
So see, I did though. I think I've maybe overthought this. I had both of those.
Well, I went for variety on my keg taps instead.
See, I've also done that. But so I had both of those. I did also have a beer that came up time and time again on a lot of people's suggestions, which was Track Sonoma as well. But in the end, that actually lost out to Marble's Pint.
Close run thing though, to be fair.
Very similar beers.
Very similar beers, similar sort of MO, sessionable under 4%, drink pretty much, it's a proper session beer.
Yes.
We joked about session beers, that falls into session.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So, should we do kegs?
Yeah.
Now let's do, and this is where I had the most trouble, actually. So, I nailed my first 2 lines, couldn't for the life of me decide on the third line.
Okay, so give us your first 2 and then tell me what style you go for the third one.
So, first one will come as no surprise to anyone. Second appearance from this brewery already.
Was it not any chance it's Cannibal, is it?
Absolutely, it's Cannibal.
And on the second tap, Cannibal. And on the third tap, Cannibal.
Human Cannibal and unhuman, yeah. So yeah, Magic Rock Cannibal, an absolute no-brainer for me. That was always going to be one of my keg lines. I had to go for an IPA. Nice, what you call probably a mid-strength IPA these days.
I presume you only have pint glasses as well.
Only pint glasses. Magic Rock Cannibal only comes in pints on my particular desert island. My second keg line, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, because I wanted something.
You've gone for a classic.
I wanted a classic, step down, looking at drinkability, sessionability, and something that I know I can always go back to time and time again. Okay. The third keg line was where I had the issue, because so to this point I've got I'm going with Marble's Pint being a bitter more than, but I think it's maybe a pale ale.
I think you could probably chuck it into either category.
Yeah. Common Grounds being a porter, Cannonball being an IPA, and another pale ale in Sierra Nevada, and then I've got some others coming up in my bottled selection later on. So I was like, what do I go with on this last line? And I had about 7 or 8 different choices. I went back to Untapped. I looked at the beers that I've drunk the most. I looked at how highly I had rated them. I looked at styles. And I was like, right, okay, we're going to have to go for something that I know is fantastic, that I don't think is going to be brewed again. So I want to experience that beer that I had back then, but also that's very different from everything else that's been on the line so far. So I went for a black IPA, but not just a black IPA. I went for a double black IPA in the form of Buxton's Battle Horse, which is a 10.5% double black.
And that has been available in keg before?
It has. So that was my third keg line, was something that when I've got bored with all the light stuff, I can just go nuts
And then fall asleep under the stars.
Yes, and wake up tomorrow and that keg would have magically refilled, because that's how it works.
That's how it works.
At midnight, everything resets.
Of course, how it works. That's a cracking shout. That last one. That's a cracking shout. That last one.
Do you want to know some of the ones that were in the running?
I want to know who lost to that.
So who lost to that? Axe Edge, Buxton.
Yeah.
Again, bit of a theme with the dark ones here. Holy Cowbell by Beavertown.
What was it about that? That's the India Porter, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. A Foam and Fury by Galway Bay.
Yeah.
If I needed a double IPA in there. Highlight by Cigar City, but I thought it was too close to Cannonball.
Yeah, I would say it probably would be.
Call Your Friends by Weird Beard, which was my beer of the year a couple of years
Yeah,
back.
that was the Black IPA, wasn't
Again,
it?
double black,
Yeah.
in
That was
black
good.
IPA. Again, Sonoma, the keg version.
Yeah.
And Babyfaced Assassin by Roosters. On keg, but then I thought if that was going to be on my bar, it probably should have been on cask.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Good on keg, but great on cask.
But I was never changing my cask lines once I'd chosen those two.
No, you would have given yourself a whole load of headaches there.
Yeah, so I had real trouble choosing my keg lines. I thought those would be the lines that I'd be like, yes,
Well, that's
bang,
what I
bang,
thought.
bang.
When you messaged me saying I can't. I said I thought you'd have trouble with the cask.
No, cask was easy for me.
So I started off by looking at my keg taps for styles this time.
Okay.
Because I knew on cask it was 2 beers, but I was always going to have. So I thought, fancy a lager. Desert Island. There's going to be a few hot days on there. I need something just crisp and cold. And this may not be for everyone, but I'm going for Camden Hills.
Okay, good shout.
Because last year, 2018, during that summer heat wave, I personally didn't get hold of a better lager than that. Was the Camden Hills. Lovely sessionable strength as well, so you can actually knock a few of them back. Really enjoyed them. Consistent as hell at the time as well. So I'm presuming, consistent as hell. And I'm presuming still the same as well. So Camden Hills, my lager. But then I thought, I do need a dark beer now. I'm going to need a dark beer, aren't I? I mean, it's just because it's a desert island.
Of course.
Need a dark beer. So I have also gone for a Magic Rock one. I've gone for Dark Carts on keg. Because going down that route where we've spoken before about having a cool or cold dark beer that starts to warm up, let's assume the desert island is closer to the equator than the Antarctic or the Arctic, it'll warm up quite nicely, but still be nice and refreshing as well. And 6%, so top end of sessionable.
Yeah.
And then finally, I went for Colonel Pale Ale. Because it's a magic desert island, it means that every time I get a Colonel Pale Ale, it will be a different
So this is a constantly rotating
Pale Ale from Colonel.
Yeah,
it's going to be because
yeah.
it will never be exactly the same.
I like the way you're using the magical properties of this desert island to your benefit.
Yes. Well, you've got to, haven't you?
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, so I thought I can have Colonel Pale Ale, but it won't be the same Pale Ale every time. Whichever one turns up, you know, it was a 5.4 2 days ago. It's a 5.3 with a different hop thrown in. You know, I'll never be able to find it on Untapped, but I'll still love having the beer.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my 3 keg choices.
So you're also assuming you're getting internet connection on your desert island.
Magic. In Doctor Who, the Doctor can phone someone from the TARDIS in deep space and time back to Earth. I can phone from a desert island. It's easy.
Okay, good shout.
I had no other runners and riders.
Yeah, see, I'm beginning to think I overthought this a little.
But I did start to struggle with the bottles. And just to be clear, listeners, Joe made it quite clear it was bottles, not cans.
Yes, because I did ask him at the time, and his response was, my view is if you can it, you can keg it.
So you've already ticked off the cans.
Yes.
They're just, the kegs are big cans.
Yeah.
So we have sticking to the rules.
Yes, went
bottles.
for bottles.
So Steve.
Well, my first bottle, I also thought I needed the lager option. So, and I had to go for Aldi's Rhineback.
Cheeky. So you can have a cheeky Rhiney.
Cheeky Rhiney.
On the desert island.
A never-ending selection of cheeky Rhineys. And it does come in bottles, and the bottles are slightly stronger than cans. So I'm all right there. So I've got myself a nice Pilsner, nice cold Pilsner to have. Don't even have to worry about the glassware. That's coming straight out of the fridge and straight out of the bottle. And then my next 2 bottles are actually both on the dark side as well. So the second one that I went for was Adnams Broadside, because it's a beer that I do turn to at any time of the year. You can enjoy it chilled from the fridge. You can let it warm up a little bit. You can enjoy it chilled from the cellar. You can enjoy it at room temperature. It's a beer that's very versatile in how you
It's
can
also
enjoy
the
it.
superior version of the two.
Exactly, which is why I went for it in bottle, not on keg, and on cask. And then the third one that I went for, I went big on my third bottle.
Go on.
I went for Beavertown's Heavy Lord, because I thought, well, firstly, if I've got a never-ending selection of it, happy days, because that's like one of my most favourite beers of all time. But secondly, there are going to be times on this desert island, even though it's a desert island, in the evening, it's still going to chill down a little bit. Or I'm just going to want to sit in front of my campfire that never goes out either, and just enjoy a big, thick, sipping beer.
With your feet gently being, down near the flames.
Yes.
Sitting back.
Yeah, just watching the stars.
Heavy Lord. I
and
did
the
consider
world
Heavy
go
Lord
by.
as well, because that was our beer of the year, but for both of us last year, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So it was a joint effort. That's a good selection of beers in the fridge.
Yeah. So I'm on the whole, I'm very happy with style wise what I've got. So I've got a Pilsner, I've got a big stout, I've got a porter, I've got an IPA, a pale ale, a double black IPA, and then a strong ale, which is what kind of Broadside falls into. So I feel as though I've got quite a nice range of beers that I'd be able to dip in and out of.
Again, if you rocked up into one of our fancy pubs on our fancy pub crawl and that was the selection presented to you,
You'd be very happy with
it'd be a very short pub crawl, but a very long day. So for me, unsurprisingly, I've gone in a slightly different direction. I started off with some Cantillon.
I suspected this may come up on your list, yes.
So I've got the Cantillon Rosé de Gambrinus, because again, the magic quality of this island means that we can have this fresh, replenished on a regular basis, and I really do like this beer fresh as well. It's one of the ones which I don't tend to age for too long in the cellar, because I do like getting the fruity notes from the Rosé de Gambrinus. Again, also comes in at 5%, so I'm getting a bit of fruit, a little bit of tartness and sourness, and also keeping into the sessionable range as well. Then I thought, what else shall I have? Magic. I can have the Fuller's Vintage Ale from 1997 up to present day, and just have as much of it as I want, and do a vertical tasting one day, 24-hour day.
I don't think that counts quite so much as the Colonel Pale Ale being rotating.
Fuller's Vintage Ale. I'm going with it.
You can't just claim Vintage Ale and just decide, I fancy a 2003 tonight.
There's nothing in the rules to say I can't.
I think you've bent these rules slightly. And I'm also gutted that I didn't think of that. I'm coming over to your desert island for a little trip. And
this is where my good wife Michelle helped me out with my last beer in the fridge. I just couldn't. I was getting a block, even though there's loads of beers I could have. I just thinking, I just need it to be a really good beer. And Pliny the Elder.
Oh, in the fridge.
In the fridge, in bottles. So rather than having it on tap.
Obviously, super fresh bottles.
Super fresh bottles, because the desert island doesn't. The people delivering it don't try to save me from the desert island, but they
just deliver the beer.
But they do deliver the beer. So
they're like magical elves that deliver the beer while you're asleep.
Exactly, but like Tooth Fairy, put the tooth down, money appears.
Yeah.
I go to sleep, beer appears. So I went for Pliny the Elder, because it's also a bit of a fantasy beer for me, because I've never had it.
Okay, that's a good shout there.
So that's what we ended up with. So basically I've got the Cantillon, so I've got the fruity sour. Got the Fuller's Vintage Ale and Pliny the Elder in the fridge. I've got on the taps a lager, a stout, and a pale ale. And then I've got Ghost Ship, probably still falls into a pale ale as well. And I've got the Jaipur for the IPA.
I've got to say, I'm surprised that Guinness didn't appear on one of your taps, particularly on one of your keg taps. No,
there's enough other beers that I prefer, although I do like Guinness, but Guinness tends to be... If I'd had 4 or 5, maybe it would have fitted in there, because then, if Mum and Dad also got stranded on a desert island, I could keep them happy as well. But no, I've decided that having had the Dark Arts recently, although it was on cask, it reminded me, every time I have Dark Arts, it reminds me how much I do actually enjoy that as a straight down the line
Yeah,
stout.
I overlooked that too much as well.
But I think we all do.
Especially with its availability now in Tesco. It shouldn't be a beer that I'm overlooking.
No, I mean, it's just such a good stout.
Yeah.
Nothing thrown in. It's just really well made, really well balanced. 6%, top end of session, but especially this time of year, perfect. Yeah. Snacks.
Snacks. I didn't take long on this at all. Pork scratchings and cheese would be my two snacks, and that would be much in your, well, certainly now, much in your vein of Fuller's Vintage. You can have whatever you want. I'm just going for all cheese.
All cheese.
Whatever I want, whenever I want it.
Well, I've got pork scratchings as well, because I don't see how you can't.
No, it's
Because you have enough of them, it's almost a meal,
exactly. Yeah.
to be honest. But I also went for a bit of a traditional snack for me, salt and vinegar crisps.
That was on my shortlist, salt and vinegar crisps, but they lost out to cheese because I thought, especially if I've got one evening where I'm going to have a dark evening, so I'm going to have a broadside and a heavy lord evening.
You need cheese.
I need cheese.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just going to sit there wanting cheese.
Yeah.
And then you can't have it.
No.
So no, really good fun to do it though.
It was a lot of fun.
I have to admit, I really do enjoy those. So thank you very much, Joe. That really was quite good. A quite specific way of choosing the stuff as well.
Yeah, should we see what Joe's choices were?
Yeah, definitely.
Because obviously Joe did put his own choices in. So Joe Hill at Multiplex Rant. So he's 2 cask lines, Manchester Marble Bitter, or Marble Manchester Bitter, Track Sonoma.
Fair enough.
No surprise there. Kegline 1, Cloudwater West Coast IPA. Not sure which version of that, but maybe he's gone down your Fuller's Vintage thinking he can just have whatever version he wants whenever he wants it. Saison DuPont and Lost and Grounded Keller Pills.
Excellent.
In bottles, he's gone for the Colonel 1856 London Stout.
Nice.
Lindeman's Michela Spontan Basil.
A beer you should never try.
I have no intention of ever trying it. Thanks for the heads up, though. And Torside's Sriracha, which is a beer we should never try, by the names of that. And his snacks were chipsticks, which as far as I know only come in the salt and vinegar variety, and olives. So again, quite a varied selection.
There's definitely a good mix of beers there. The 1856 London Stout and the Michela Spontan Basil, they're definitely ones which you can just sort of leave for a little bit as well.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's a good choice. I mean, Track Sonoma, Manchester Marble Bit, I mean, two classics as far as I'm concerned. I think Track Sonoma can be classed as a classic already.
Well, I think he's got pretty much a classic lineup there to a point.
The Saison DuPont is a master stroke on keg.
Yeah.
I think that's a master stroke on keg.
Very, very clever.
Yeah.
Very clever, that.
So should we go through a few of the other ones then?
Yeah, let's have a look at some of the other suggestions, and then we'll have a look at what is the overall
picture, the view.
What would be the Twitter fantasy desert island bar?
So from Guzzler at Lagging Boat, another shout for Track Sonoma on cask, and then also Siren A Broken Dream. So he's already got his light and dark
on cask. That's a good shout. That Siren one.
Yeah. Keg 1, Daya Steady Rolling Man. Keg 2, he's gone a lot more specific on his Colonel IPA than I have. Colonel IPA Galaxy Citra.
So I think a lot of people missed a trick on this Colonel thing.
See, I got that one.
Should have like you should have just gone Colonel IPA, and I'll just have it on the rotating basis. Whichever the one's coming that week,
because they're going to deliver a different one every time. And Verdant Howl. I don't know what is Verdant Howl. I'm not familiar with that one myself.
I'm sure it's a double IPA.
And then we get another Colonel are doing well on this list so far. On the two lists so far.
Very well.
So Colonel Export India Porter is bottle number 1. Then we've gone Buxton Yellow Belly for bottle number 2.
It's quite a leap.
Not finished there though. Bottle number 3, a snap with you, Steve. Beavertown Heavy Lord.
Can't argue with that. Can't argue with that at all.
And then Snacks, Pork Scratchings. Big shout out to Pork Scratchings at the moment. And then this is the one I probably should have had as well. Scotch Eggs.
Oh yeah, I must admit, going through some of these, I was looking at some of the snack suggestions and I was like, ooh, ooh, yeah, maybe I should have had that.
Yeah, see, Scotch Eggs, I do love a Scotch Egg. So, but some cracking beers in there again. I mean, that fridge is awesome.
I mean, what a selection that is.
That fridge, Export India Porter, Buxton Yellow Belly and the Beavertown Heavy Lord. You're going to know you've been in that fridge by the end of that.
Yeah, and you're going to feel it, aren't you?
You are going to feel it. I mean, it's just as well that your desert bar is right beside where you live on the desert island.
I'm assuming this desert island has magical healing properties as well, where as all the beers, all the taps, all the casks, all the bottles reset at midnight, so does your hangover.
Yep.
So
you wake up in the morning. There's been no
Fresh as a daisy.
no weight gain either.
Yeah.
I'm assuming bacon and eggs is also provided.
Well, that was never mentioned, but maybe it should have been included as a snack. Bring on the beer at Bring on the Beer. Bit more of a traditional selection here. So 2 cask lines, Ringwood 49er, and St Austell's Tribute.
Two very good classics though.
Yep. Keg lines, Guinness, Tiny Rebel Stay Puffed, and St Austell Korev.
So someone else throwing in another lager.
Yeah. Bottles, Wiper and True Milkshake Stout, Glam Brewing Jemima's Pitchfork, which I've got to say is one I'm not familiar with.
No.
And Falcon Beer. Again, one that I'm not familiar with. And then on the snacks, you've got Roast Beef Monster Munch and Honey Roasted Peanuts.
Old school.
Very old school.
But I love the having the St Austell Korev on there as well, and the Wiper and True Milkshake Stout. Is Bring on the Beer from the West Country?
I believe possibly in Wales. I think he's from.
Just because we've got St Austell Tribute, Tiny Rebel, St Austell Korev, Wiper and True, and one of the other two, Glam Brewing and Falcon, may well be that neck of the woods.
Yes,
for all I know.
yeah.
Not knowing enough about them. Nice mix though. Nice mix.
What I'm loving is people have actually given this some thought.
Yeah, I think people a bit like us. They did sort of get into it. I think they really did enjoy the thoughts behind it. Before we get to the next one, final thoughts on the London Porter.
Love it. I mean, as it started to...
The new old London Porter, I should say.
As it started to warm in the glass, a few more flavours coming through, but really holding on to those big flavours we picked up initially, that smoky, toast, roasted notes, roasted coffee notes, all in there.
Now this is one I wouldn't mind trying on cask.
Yeah, I think on cask, a little bit more body on that, and you're on to an absolute winner with that beer.
Very drinkable. So why don't I open the next beer, which is the House IPA India Pale Ale from Howling Hops at 6.9%. Catsull at Katrina's. So, cask beer number 1, Harvey's Prince of Denmark. Now which one is that? Is it a winter beer or strong beer?
I think it's a strong beer, isn't it? It's not the barley wine, is it? That's Elizabethan.
No, I'll have a look in a minute. And then the 5 points derailed porter, which is their stronger version of the railway porter, isn't it?
Isn't it the Bretted version of the railway porter?
I think so, because then they also did a bottled version, didn't they? I mean, there's no surprise that we're getting a bit of Brett in this selection.
Not from Cat.
From Cat.
No.
Speaking of which, bottle number 1, Burning Sky Saison. Is that the Provence?
Yes, yeah.
Then the Colonel Table Beer, very sensible. And then Duvel. But none of this mucking around with the other hops. Duvel.
Straight in on Duvel.
Straight in on Duvel. Then bottle number 1, the Cam Goes. And then bottle number 2, the Sherlin Curler, the Rausch beer.
Yes, the classic Rausch beer.
And then Orville.
And Orville was one that kept coming up.
It is a classic. And everyone knows that you can leave those to age a bit as well if you want.
Well, assuming upon hearing how you're going to be treating your vintages, people are now going to be like, well, that's how I'm going to have my Orvilles. I'll have them on whichever year that I fancy on that particular evening. Thank you very much.
That's fine. It's their desert island.
Okay. I'll let them go with that.
And then a little bit of a twist on the snacks. Smoked almonds and jalapeno scratchings. I love the idea of jalapeno scratchings. You don't.
I don't.
But I love that bit. I love that bit of spice and burn. And the only thing is, the smoked almonds and the jalapeno scratchings, more than some of the other snacks even maybe, they're just going to want you to carry on drinking.
That's all they're going to do. They're going to be thirsty.
Yeah.
Chicken Dipper at Graham Zalander. Cask Lines, Burning Sky Aurora, and Burning Sky Robust Porter. Clearly a big Burning Sky fan if he's having 2
Burning
Cask
Sky
Lines.
fan there.
Yeah. On the kegs, you've got Buxton Rain Shadow.
Woof.
Big old impy stout. He's not fucking around there, is he? I must admit, Graham was having a bit of an internal dilemma as well, because he originally had Magic Rock's Cannonball on, but he dropped it for Rain Shadow. His second keg line is Lost and Grounded Keller Pills. And then third keg line is Russian River Pliny the Elder, which is how he justified dropping Cannonball. He said, if I've got that, I'm quite happy that I don't need Cannonball if I've got Pliny.
Fair enough.
In his bottles, he's got Orval, Arbor Breakfast Stout, and Lervig No Worries. Not sure what the last one is in terms of its style, but if it's from Lervig, it's bound to be a big beer. And then snacks, pretzels and olives.
Yeah, second shout for olives.
Yeah, olives getting a lot of love.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. Don't know why. Maybe because I'm just thinking of a pub, but olives appear in a lot of places these days. I just haven't given it much thought at all.
Let's try the beer.
See what the beer's like.
Okay.
All this talk about all these beers and not drinking one.
So this is their house IPA, yeah?
Initial thoughts, you've taken a good glug of that. This has made it thirsty for you, hasn't it?
It has, yeah.
I mean, this feels like, the Pale XX was orange squash when we were doing it on Periscope. I find that this feels like orange squash, but you've diluted it a lot less.
Yeah, it's there's some sugariness in there.
Yeah.
Lemon, pineapple, maybe some orange as well.
It's definitely got that barley.
It's kind of like, it's that summer fruits mixed squash that you'd get.
But you haven't watered it down. Well, not watered it down quite as much as I like it to be.
Yeah. No, you've put more concentrate in than you have water.
Yeah, and that's what it feels like initially to me. All those fruit flavours are there and stuff. It's a weird one. I mean, you wouldn't know. House IPA at 6.9%. When I first saw it, I thought, House IPA, that'd probably be a sessionable beer. No, a bit like house.
Yeah.
I know a house wine isn't, but it'd be like almost like a default one. 6.9% feels like a stronger.
It does feel a lot stronger.
So, but I have to admit, actually, the Pale X wasn't on. I'm talking rubbish. The Pale XX wasn't on Periscope. That was the first beer tonight. It was a different beer on Periscope. I was talking rubbish.
No, but we're going to do that one next time.
Yeah, so sorry about that.
New England IPA.
Getting out of sync. Time travel.
It's all this excitement about these desert island beers.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sure it is.
It is.
I mean, it's almost like I want to wake up tomorrow on a desert island.
With beer, though.
With my selections.
Yeah. From Martin at Griffin at Martin de Monkey, a second shout out for Burning Sky Aurora on cask, and then an absolute classic cask number 2, Harvey's Best.
Yeah,
bang
straight
on there. Keg number 1, Colonel Export India Porter. Colonel are getting a lot of love for the desert island.
I have to say that Colonel got a lot of love across the board. The only place that they didn't come in at all was in cask. Now, bearing in mind it's a fantasy, and you could have chosen what you wanted. I'm surprised someone didn't go.
No one's tried Colonel on cask, have they?
No, I don't think so.
So I don't think you put it there. Now you're being ridiculous. Now you're being ridiculous about the desert island.
That's almost a different fantasy thing. It's what beer could you have that doesn't exist?
Yes, and maybe we'll do that another day.
That could be one for another day, indeed.
The Goose Tilquin for keg number 2, and pressure drop pale fire.
Well, that's a good shout.
That is a good shout. That is a very good shout, actually. That one.
As a keg line.
Yeah. Bottle number 1, Orval.
Again.
I hope Orval have got stock.
yeah, to supply all these desert islands.
And helicopters. A Burning Sky Anniversary. And Duga's Big Idjit.
I think that's a stout. I think that's a big impy stout.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And old school snacks coming up. Scampi fries and scratchings.
Brilliant. I love the shout for the scampi fries in there.
I presume then if you have the scampi fries when you wake up in the morning, your hands will no longer smell of scampi fries. If I remember correctly,
everything resets at midnight.
Every time you have scampi fries, that's it.
It's not just the desert island, but it's Groundhog Day.
It's Groundhog Day.
It resets every day.
So what's it, about 6 o'clock in the morning then?
Yeah. Last one then from what some of the listeners suggested on Twitter. James at James Moosh, 2 cask lines, Track Sonoma and Marble Manchester Bitter.
So exactly the same cask as Joe,
who suggested this particular one. On keg, we've got Lost and Grounded Keller Pils, Brasserie de la Seine Bruxellensis, and Colonel's Dry Stout. Again, nice selection of different styles there. Bottles, we've got Orval again. We've got Oud Goose, and we've got Lervig Barley Wine. as well. So big shout for the barley wine coming in at the end there. And then
This is a very specific snack coming up.
I'm assuming if someone can tell us what this actually is, because I'm assuming it's more than just a boiled egg or a pickled egg. He actually said Manchester eggs.
Is it like a Scotch egg? Because you can get Scotch eggs which have black pudding.
Okay.
So is this a Manchester take on Scotch egg?
I'm sure someone will tell us.
Well, if they can't tell us now, surely when we go to Manchester, someone can tell us.
We'll find out. And if someone from Manchester can't tell us, I'm sure Sean will tell us. And then his other stack was Stilton.
But he's got very specific on the cheese.
Yeah. See, I like I say,
you've learned now.
Took a bit of a liberty there.
You've learned your lesson there
on the cheese. So on the whole, what I then did from all these responses we had, so the ones we've read out, obviously only a snapshot because we can't go through every single response.
No, but I'm just looking at the list now, and there are some cracking beers on the bar and in the fridge, and fortunately, there's no calorie counting on the desert island because some of those snacks are looking wonderful.
They are. I will just give one mention to, and this is one that literally just stood out to me as I was looking at the list in front of us now. Steve from Beer Nouveau, who wanted Carlsberg Special Brew as one of his cans or bottles.
Yeah, I saw that. Well, he's a big advocate of it, isn't he?
He is.
But he also threw in tequila.
Yeah, because he did say in his tweet you didn't specify that the bottles had to be beer.
Did we not?
No. Which I think was maybe stretching it a bit far.
Steve's going to have a wonderful party on his...
Isn't he just? So yeah, across all of that, what I did was tallied it all up and I came up with what is kind of the ultimate Twitter desert island bar.
So should we do this in stages? Do you want to? Shall I read out the cask? Can you read out the keg?
Well, yeah, cask is your thing, isn't it?
So cask number 1 on the Twitter bar, on the Desert Island Twitter bar, Track Sonoma.
And that was the one cask beer that got the most mentions.
Across everything.
Across cask,
yep.
it got the most mentions.
Yep, that's a cracking start. And then a rotating line, apparently, on our Magic Desert Island.
Because they had the same number of
couldn't split it.
Couldn't split it, so it's kind of one day it will be one, the next day it will be the other, and on forever.
But it gives you 2 very different beers as well.
Yep.
First up, Thornbridge Jaipur, and then day 2, Harvey's Best. That's you're getting three nice beers there, aren't you, on cask now?
You'd be quite happy.
You'd be happy with that.
You'd be happy with those cask selections.
Definitely. As much as I love Jaipur, having a day off when you get a pint of Harvey's Best and tip-top condition, because it's one of those beers which when brewers come over from Europe and brewers come over from the States, they seek out something like Harvey's Best. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Is a pint of Harvey's Best. So come to the desert island.
Any one of the desert islands or the ultimate desert island.
Yes.
Which is where we're at now.
So what have we got on the free keg line, Steve?
Without a doubt, the one that was the most popular suggestion across the kegs was Lost and Grounded Keller Pills. Closely followed by Daya's Steady Rolling Man. And then Russian River's Pliny the Elder.
Now I wonder because I think most people who voted for Keller Pills and Steady Rolling Man have had both of those beers.
Yeah.
I wonder how many have done the same as me. Almost, I might be wrong, but I've chosen Pliny the Elder as almost like a beer.
As a wish.
Yeah. As a wish beer. I'll be quite curious. If anyone's chosen that because they have it as a wish beer, just let us know. Yeah,
absolutely. You want to do the bottles?
Yeah. Bottle number 1, not going to be much of a surprise, is it? Orval. Bottle number 2, a bit more of a surprise, I think. Bearing in mind you've got such a wide selection of beers to choose from, there's been some sensible people here. Colonel Table Beer has turned up in bottle number 2.
And it did keep coming up again and again.
Yeah. And bottle number 3, Free Fontaine Oud Goose. Nice little selection there. Bit of Belgian hints as well.
Maybe not a selection for me.
Maybe won't be classed as Steve's beer fridge.
Yeah.
But nice little mix there.
Absolutely.
Okay, and drum roll. What was the winning snacks?
On the snacks, unsurprisingly, the first snack would be pork scratchings or any other form of bits of pork. There seem to be many suggestions for that. And then the second one is I've had to... That there were so many different suggestions of different types of nuts that all I could do was say, well, just have a mixed nut selection because there was too many choices.
There was a lot of, so we've got walnuts, cashew, smoked almonds, mixed nuts, pistachio nuts, chili peanuts. You've even got like roasted yellow peas, which would almost fall into the nut category for a lot of people. So yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah, otherwise you just wouldn't have got there in the end.
No, so that's our ultimate Twitter desert island bar.
Now you see, the thing is, I'm probably going to be happier with that bar than you.
I would agree, actually. Although I've got
I think taps are fine.
Yeah. Bottles, I'm going to struggle with the bottles.
The fridge isn't going to be to your Colonel Table beer is going to be your go-to out of the fridge.
It is, and sadly, there's nothing across. There's no dark beer there.
No. Harvey's Best is the closest.
But that is what the people chose.
And, we go with the people's vote.
We do indeed. But, as always...
keep this one going if you want to.
Yeah, keep it going. Use the hashtag opinions. And we'll find your suggestions if you didn't get to input into this particular show. Let us know what they were, and probably down the line, like we ended up having to do with a fantasy pub crawl, there'll probably be a spreadsheet here with all of these suggestions. But that was a lot of fun.
That was actually really good fun. So once again, thank you very much, Joe. It was a really nice suggestion. I liked the limitations that was also put around it as well.
Yeah, to kind of hone in your thoughts a little bit more.
You can literally just pick 20 taps and have as many cask or keg as you liked among that, and umpteen bottles. Very, very specific numbers. It made you think about it. It definitely made you think about it.
I had a great time thinking about it.
You had like 3 sleepless nights.
Yeah. I mean, that was a lot of fun. And I'm still enjoying doing these fantasy discussions, and we've got many, many more suggestions that people have put forward as well.
So every now and again, it will pop up.
It will indeed. So, like we say, if you didn't get involved in that, still make your suggestions. Use the hashtag, and you may very well find yourself in this next part of the show.
Let us know, write it down. Let us know, write it down. Let us know your thoughts and bitter and lingerness. Write it down.
Quite a few comments about previous shows here.
So, the Seba trilogy comments, effectively.
Yeah, let's get those ones out of the way first.
So, from Jay at Strickers66, after listening to the Leon C podcast, I walk into the 12 Taps at Whitstable, and they've got Legger on tap. I'm driving, and it was the perfect beer. Good stuff. Could definitely sink a few pints. So could I, and I have done in the past when I've had the opportunity.
I don't disagree. When I was in the Vic at the weekend, Rich was saying they had it on, and it came and it went.
I bet it flew.
It went very quickly.
Cheers to Beer O'Clock Show and Jager Wise for the kind words about Slam Dunk the Funk. It's a great listen as always, guys. Thanks. And that's from Funk Dungeon, Abbeydale Barrel Project at Abbeydale Funk.
And just a slight apology to make there. I didn't realise that Abbeydale's Funk Project had its own Twitter handle.
Nor did I.
So I tagged Abbeydale into the original post.
To be fair, it's just something which hasn't cropped up for us. So apologies for that. But now we know about it.
We know. Yeah.
We know. We won't forget. From Mr. WP at Right Hart Lane. I'm sure he's always playing about with the first word or so.
It does keep changing his handle.
It's always got a Spurs feeling to it, though. Great pod as usual, and a great guest. Love listening to the multi-talented Jager Wise and learning more about Wildcard Brewery. She was honest before and after her 5th beer. Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah, we didn't suddenly ply with too much beer and get some sort of exclusive. I mean, she was very happy to share what she wanted to say and how she wanted to say it. Very good speaker. Very good speaker.
Yeah. From Dr. Rob at Kai As Anya Forest.
Glad you took that one.
Comments about Untapped ratings in your last show really resonated. Should we be rating great pintable beer or impossible to get wows more highly? I would love to hear a show about that and the influence it has on our purchasing. I think it's something we've spoken about before, isn't it? And particularly your rating on Untapped has, in more recent times, has lent more towards the more sessionable,
Yeah.
smashable, pintable beers
Yes.
are the ones that get the higher ratings, rather than those rare ones that are always gonna kind of be deserving of that higher mark.
Yeah, I mean, if my view has changed to I think it came about start of this year, or partly through last year. If I'm willing to be in a place and session a beer and carry on partying with my cash, I can't just be putting down a 3.75 or something. That's ridiculous. So no, I think it has changed. Whether we could do a whole show, I think there's probably definitely times when comments will come out about it that will fit in around certain points we're trying to make. But I mean, you know, we all know if you go and look at Untapped top ratings or Rate Beer top ratings, it's more likely to be things like the Wales.
Yeah.
You know, our beer of the year last year was a 14.5% barrel aged beer. So, you know, but as much as we enjoyed it, how many of those can you do in one sitting?
Well, that's it. Yeah, and how many times did we have that beer in the year?
Yeah, probably twice, and we followed it up once this year.
Yeah.
So I probably had it 3 times. So, but there are many beers I've had many more times than that. So yeah, but it was a nice little discussion around that actually.
Yeah, I do think though, give it maybe another 6, 9, maybe 12 months, and I do feel there's another Untapped show in us in terms of, because we've done it a couple of times already.
Yep.
But I think both of us are changing the way that we use Untapped.
Yes.
And Untapped itself is changing.
Yep.
And people's views on Untapped are changing. So I think let's give it a few more months, and I think it's one we might come back to and revisit.
Maybe this summer sometime.
Yeah.
See how that's going.
From Sean O'Reilly at Uncrulia, official number cruncher stroke statistician of the show. Really great show. I don't think Jager Wise said a single thing I could disagree with. How psychophantic does that sound? I particularly liked her honesty in talking about Wildcard's growth plans.
Yeah, no, I said she was honest.
Yeah.
You asked her a question, she was honest about it.
Yeah.
Very eloquent speaker.
So from Paul at UNRCD, thought at Jager Wise talked about supermarkets and small breweries really well on the latest Beer O'Clock show, and put to rest a few misconceptions I had.
Oh, that's good then.
Yeah, it's always nice when we have a guest on that kind of
Bring some facts to the show.
Yeah, and kind of helps our listeners to understand a little bit more about
and helps us as well.
The industry.
It helps us as well. There were some excellent points being made about the beers in and out of supermarkets as well.
Yeah.
Really good points.
Yeah.
So from Ian Hay at II Hay, finally listening to the show from Thursday. Glad I cleared up the Argentina beer for you. We were too.
Yeah, thanks Ian. Appreciate that.
Superb show. Jager Wise, very engaging. Please have her back on again soon. You know, I think we'd definitely like to get her and James both back on at some point next year.
Oh, without a doubt.
Definitely. Yeah. From the Hopspot podcast at Hopspot UK. A great episode. Got me through a boring, dull and quiet day at work. We're here to help.
That's all we can say about that one, isn't it? Job done. From Points of Brew at points_of_brew. Hi guys, just wanted to say as a regular listener to the show how much I enjoyed listening to each one. Always a great listen that's topical and balanced when it comes to #opinions and any other debate. Hopefully be able to come on the Crimbo Crawl too. We hope you can come too, and we'd love to enjoy a beer with you.
And anyone listening, if you can write your Twitter handle on a badge as well as having the official Crimbo Crawl badge, it'd be really handy.
Yes, hello, my name is at. Yeah. I'm sure we've got to talk to our creative director about doing those stickers for this year. We keep saying we need to do it. From Bacallian at Bacchanalian UK. Bacchanalian, okay. Well, you could have taken that one for me rather than sit there and watch me struggle through it.
Actually, right on the last Beers Without Frontiers podcast, they had Andrew on only for about 5 minutes from River Brews, and he managed to quote you and your mispronunciation of stuff, which I thought was a bit harsh because generally I'm just as bad.
Yeah, I know. Why single me out? Honestly. Listening to Beer O'Clock show, which features SIBA, interesting stuff while I sort out blog hosting. Good luck with that blog hosting as well. If you have sorted it out, hope you get it up and running, and certainly let's have a link to what you're doing so we can have a little look at it. And then we had a whole host of comments about our most recent opinions on films,
which I was quite surprised at.
I was very surprised that there was a sudden outpouring of love around what we had put out, wasn't there?
You know, before we get into those, I'm halfway through the Howling Hops House IPA 6.9%. I will be honest, I'm not loving this one. I'm finding this one harder work for me.
I'm not actually. And I've had it in the past, and I have enjoyed it. But I also know I've had a recent discussion on Twitter with Paul and with Chris about it, because I thought it was more straight up American IPA.
I had it at the Tank Bar before, and that's what I thought.
But this is very New England leaning.
Yes.
And Chris confirmed that on the Twitter conversation, that it is a New England style IPA. And now tasting this, it's very sugary sweet. It's got a very sugary sweet finish. And it's a bit of a challenge to drink.
It is, and it's almost got just in the background for me that sort of savoury feel going on in the background.
I'm getting none of that.
You all now mentioned it.
Yeah, that's it.
Just
now.
to help, just to help you along.
It's there now. Yeah.
I'm finding it. Whereas I found the old London Port, the new old London Porter, really nice, and the Pale Ale XX Invo a bit fruity than we'd expect American Pale Ale to be. Both of them really drinkable. This one's making me work.
It is hard work.
This one's making me work.
Yeah.
Glad it's in a 330 can.
I am. I think I would have struggled with more.
If we'd had two 440s, yeah, definitely.
I think if we'd had a 440 of this, maybe
that would have been almost a perfect pour for us as a sharer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you are a New England IPA lover, this is almost like, for me, would be almost like maybe your entry to it, because it's still not quite as juicy and as thick a mouthfeel as some of them can be.
Yeah, it's lacking that part of it.
So it hasn't got that great big full body. Makes you feel like, oh, blimey, I really have had like a fruit smoothie or big old breakfast juice. But it's definitely going in that direction.
Yeah, it's that finish for me that's a bit much. It's got that sugariness that I don't like.
Yeah, it's not quite got the coating or the cloying. It's just a bit too much of it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's making me work on that one.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us some of the love? Share the love.
I'm going to share the love. So, Mr. WP, again, at Right Heart Lane. Great pod, enjoyed the commentary, and have all the same feelings as you two while watching the film. Hated Christmas and what came with it until I met my now wife. This film encapsulates a lot of what that means to me now. And like you, it's a tradition every year.
Thank you very much. And this one is from Men Behaving Badly at MBB Podcast. Gents. Oh, who's he talking to?
Certainly not us.
Oh, okay. Well, let's assume he got that first bit wrong.
Yep.
Gents, superb episode. I'll be honest, it's the first on films I've listened to in full. I too am a big fan of Love Actually. Really enjoyed the facts and links to other films and TV shows. Got me right in the Christmas mood. I'll be watching with a barley wine this year.
That's a good.
Sounds like
good
the perfect way to
selection
watch it.
A beer to drink with that film. And then again, Miles Lambert at Miles Lambert. Really enjoyed Opinions on Films. Always used to overlook Love Actually as a Christmas film, but Dion has instilled it in me as a firm favourite every year. Love the cosy charm of listening to you chat while watching it. Almost feel ready to be Christmassy.
We did release it a little bit earlier than planned, but I'm glad people still felt Christmassy when watching it.
It was supposed to be out now, as you're listening to this show.
This would have been
supposed to be in this slot, so it would have been even closer to December and therefore officially Christmas.
Yeah, and the last of the feedback on this one, and again, thank you very much. This is from Will Watkins at Dry Your Beers. A few really good episodes back to back. James from Seaver is my personal favourite, and great to hear how progressive some of their recent work has been. If he fancies going into politics, he'd have my vote over the current bunch of clowns. And how's that? We're doing a bit of real time news there.
I know, very topical that.
Very topical or tropical, depending on your thoughts about the beer.
Keep getting involved, folks. Use that hashtag Hopinions, and we will find you. We'll put you in a part of the show, depending on what you're going to do. So, because some people like to comment on previous shows, and some people like to ask us questions.
Questions fill my head.
Got a few questions to get through tonight. To help us through those questions, another beer from Howling Hops.
Another beer from Howling Hops. So this is advertised as a New England IPA. Quicksand.
Boy, does it look like it.
It does look like it. Similar sort of ABV, 6.7%. This one does tell us it's a Simcoe, a Columbus and Centennial hopped beer.
Okay, well I'm quite excited by two of the three of those hops.
Yeah.
Simcoe and Centennial are kind of hops that are known as classic American.
I was going to say
hops.
they've been in the beers we've been drinking for a few years now.
Yeah, cheers.
So cheers.
Oh, it's a juicy, pulpy sort of nose.
I mean, it pours really nicely. I mean, this has got definitely. I mean, it's got a New England look. It's not hazy.
No,
it's full throttle. It's a nice white foamy head. Very fruity nose.
Oh, that's really light. Flavours are subtle but prominent at the same time, so you can pick out different flavours in that.
That's a real contrast to the House IPA.
Yeah,
actually,
I'm getting a little bit of orange, a little bit of passion fruit, a little bit of peach in there. So it's just a little bit of each of those, though.
Yeah.
Not one dominates.
And although it looks like a fuller mouthfeel should come from this beer, judging by the look in the glass, it doesn't. It drinks quite light, actually.
It drinks very light.
Finishes with just a slight bit of dryness, as if you'd just eaten a bit of the skin of one of those fruits you'd mentioned. Really good, actually.
No sweetness, no sugary finish.
No, I mean...
No hop burn.
Oh, isn't that good, though? No hop burn. And to be fair, the House IPA had no hop burn either.
No.
We've
not had that at all tonight.
There's been no hot burn going on. So, yeah, we enjoyed it. We'll go through a couple of the questions.
Okay, so from Guy Miller at Brew Guy. Thoughts on corkage on beer you have bought in a bottle shop and you are charged extra to sit in shops and drink. Does this still happen? And how much have you been charged on top? I think it does happen.
It does happen. There's certainly some of the bottle shop / bars or bars which have fridges, which is probably a better way of saying it, in London, definitely charge you extra to then have it opened and drink it on site.
Yeah. Personally, it massively puts me off.
I think
of doing that. I would buy it to take away, but there's no way I'm paying £3, £4, sometimes £5 more for the privilege of drinking that beer in the bar.
Done it twice, and both times we're sharing with 2 or 3 other people, so the cost didn't feel as much. But unless I'm going straight home afterwards, I won't buy it takeaway either then, because I'm not going to lug it around.
Yes. Yeah.
Generally, it's going to be a sharer bottle for me. So 500, 660, 750. It's way too much added on. I mean, I'm not really sure what you're doing extra for it.
No. Not in terms of everything that you're adding. So I think in terms of the question, it does still happen.
Yeah, and I think in some places...
And there's a massive variance in terms of the cost.
I think it's extortionate.
Yeah.
And it puts me off.
It puts me off as well. And I think... But the flip side of that is that we're quite lucky, particularly in terms of, let's say, bottle share, where the ale house in Chelmsford will allow us to take our bottles in and drink them. And they don't charge us for that privilege. Yeah.
So so I suppose what traditional corkage is where somewhere which doesn't really sell drink but lets you bring it in and will charge you on top.
Yeah.
Now, I think that's a different thing. I think if you go to, say, there's a lot of Indian restaurants in London which don't necessarily have drinks licences but let you bring drink in and charge you a bit on top of that. Actually, I seem to mind that less because at least I'm having a beer that I like. And I'm thinking, okay, well, fair enough. Maybe buy it, especially these days. I've gone past Tesco Express. I could pick up a 4-pack of something for £6 and they charge me X per one. Fine, I can do that. But when I'm actually in a bar and you're having to pay extra on top just because I've decided not to avail myself of the tap or the cask, I'm really not sure why the extra's there. So, yeah, Ale House are very good. Let's do it once a month. I mean, we spend money before and after, and every couple of times a year we have a bit of a mash-up and spend our money behind the bar, and it all goes a bit wrong, to be honest.
It always goes wrong.
We're only a few months away from one of those as well. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear what other people's thoughts on this are.
If there are any experiences out there of it, let us know.
Are you okay with it? Maybe someone can explain to me why it's added on as well.
I'd like to know that. Yeah, if you're the proprietor of a bar that adds that corkage on, let us know. Let us know why you do it. Let us know what the costs involved in it. Is it a licensing thing? I don't know. Is it a licensing thing? Do you have to do it? Tell us.
Yeah.
If people know more, let us know.
Yeah, I would just be really curious. And I'll also, between bars that sell bottles, because if you're in a pub and someone tried to charge you more for a bottle, they'd go no. But if it's in a new, modern type of bar, it seems to be okay.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Adam Johnson at maybe _not_a_fad. Lots of underscores. You need to drop some of the underscores, Adam. With more hoppy or juicy paler ales, and the ever-increasing subgenre of the IPA, what is the modern difference between a pale ale and an IPA? Quite an appropriate question tonight with the beers we've had.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's a question and a half, though, isn't
Yeah.
it? In terms of, let's take, just based on the beers that we've had tonight.
Yeah.
So we've had a pale ale.
Yep.
And are we going to compare the Pale XX to the House IPA or to the beer that we're drinking now?
Well, let's have all three. So I would say that 5 years ago, all three of those beers wouldn't have been on my radar as being in that category of pale ale or IPA.
Yeah.
Because a bit like you, pale ale for me was almost like a little brother to the IPA. Still a good beer in its own right, but if I didn't want to go maybe a bit too big and bold on the piney, the resinous, the dankness, the bitterness,
The ABV.
the ABV, I go for the pale ale.
Yeah.
So High Wire from Magic Rock versus Cannonball from Magic Rock, perhaps, would be my maybe two examples. And that's still my sort of defining point generally. So come back to what you were saying earlier about pale ale. Yes, that is still that was definitely a fruitier version of a pale ale than what I would normally go for. You quoted Sierra Nevada more than once tonight. Once in your desert island bar, and once as your benchmark. I say it's a very fair benchmark of what a pale ale, in my mind, still is and should be. But people are pushing the boundaries. I mean, I don't know how you'd categorise the pale ale that Howling Hops provided for us tonight, but it's definitely not the same. It's definitely not for me the same type of pale ale as Sierra Nevada.
No, it's completely different. And if you go back to our desert island bar, so we had a number of pale ales and IPAs on our own bars, on what we heard from others, and on that final kind of Twitter bar, that are all very, very different. So Daya's Steady Rolling Man is a pale ale.
Yeah.
But it's a very thick and juicy pale ale.
Yeah.
Your Own Choice, Ghost Ship, is a pale ale. But it's a million miles away from Daya's Steady Rolling Man. But then we also had on there Jaipur, which is an IPA, very traditional IPA, which is very different from those two pale ales in terms of its flavour profile, its ABV, everything that goes with it. And we had Cannonball as well, which these days still has those big resiny hits, but sometimes can be a little bit soft, it can be a little bit tropical, it can be a little bit juicy. I think it's all of a bit of a mishmash these days, isn't it, in terms of specifically what sits in which category. I think in terms of the particular question, if Adam, if you're looking for a definitive answer,
you're probably not going to find one here.
You're not going to find one here, but maybe go to the BJCP guidelines in terms of what beers should look and feel and taste like.
I mean, I don't know how often they review that, but I'm assuming they must review it a lot these days with the boundaries being pushed all the time. I still sit down with when I see IPA, if it doesn't preface it with anything else, I have to admit, I would assume West Coast leaning.
Yes.
And I will inevitably then be a slight tinge of disappointment if it's not West Coast leaning. No matter how good it may or may not be, if it's not West Coast leaning, it hasn't prefaced IPA with anything else, I'll go,
Well, it's quite interesting you say that, actually, because I had a discussion with Paul on Twitter a while back about that, because he was challenging Untapped as to why West Coast IPA isn't a style, and my response to that is because it isn't. IPA is the style. When Untapped was first built, all that existed was IPAs, and they were of that West Coast style. So therefore, I don't think an IPA needs to be prefaced with West Coast, but I do believe it needs to be prefaced with
New England.
I was going to go for North Coast again there. That's the issue. That's why there was the pause. Because that's a different genre of the IPA style, and I still believe that. I do get a little bit frustrated these days where a lot of brewers are kind of, here's our latest West Coast IPA. Well, no, you've just brewed an IPA. Yeah,
but I don't mind if they do that.
Because I want to know.
At least it's been clarified for me, so I know what you're saying. And with regards to Untapped, and when they first started, there was effectively, if we take out some of the bastardisation of IPAs in this country, it was West Coast leaning IPAs was IPA, and then we had the race to the top of the bitterness chain for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now we've gone for New England IPA for the race to the fruitiness of the IPA. but that one came second, so that gets the preface.
Yeah, and that's what I think. But great question.
Good question though. But if anyone else has anything more tangible than the rambling thoughts of Stephen Martin, please feel free to share
She's
it.
always good at this stage of the show as well. Next up from Miles Lambert at Miles Lambert. What factors do you consider when picking a special celebration beer?
Honestly,
Yep.
is it already in my cellar?
I'm probably with you on that. Have I got it? Is it easily accessible? Am I ready to drink it?
And have I got two of them?
Yeah. Yeah, so I can enjoy one a bit further down the
Rather
line,
than bringing it over, sharing it and going, I wish I hadn't shared that.
Yeah. Well, I did have this, this particular quandary recently, didn't I? Because I was approaching my 5,000th unique check-in on Untapped, and I made a bit of a big thing about that was going to happen at the Crimbo Crawl, and then I had a mad weekend and realised it was going to happen well before the Crimbo Crawl. So then realised it was going to happen when we were in Dublin, and then I was like, okay, well I'm here on 4,999, and I'm looking at the board, and I'm like, where's the big beer that I'm gonna have? So
You found one though.
I did find one, and it was a great beer to have. And
Very good beer.
Part of the enjoyment of that beer maybe wouldn't have been the beer I'd chosen had I been at home and had access to my cellar, so to speak. But part of the moment was that it was with friends.
Yeah.
So it
Always
could
helps.
have been, I don't know, a new variant of Guinness that I'd never had, but it still would have been a great beer to have chosen for that particular check-in.
In the atmosphere, in it. But yeah, I would start off by, is it one that I've already got in the cellar? Maybe one I've been looking after? I mean, go back to Michael's birthday last year. I had been looking after my Fuller's Vintage Ale 2000 for a number of years because that's the year he was born.
Yeah.
So that one, I think, taking away the flippancy, have I got two of them in the cellar? Just to be clear, I only had one of the 2000 in the cellar, and I still will never forgive my son for actually drinking his own bit of the beer when he hardly ever drinks beer. I'm sure he did it just to spite me. It will be the occasion as well, and have I sort of planned it a little bit, that kind of thing, But if it's one I've been looking after, and I think, someone else who I know will appreciate it, then that will also get factored in as well. I don't think I'd take a chance with one where someone hasn't got any real interest. There'd be no point, really.
I suppose the celebration itself is a massive factor in that, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
It's what are you celebrating?
Yeah, what are you celebrating with and who with?
Yeah.
So definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Good question, though. Good question. And last question, and this is from someone else who's also had a mention earlier, Will Watkins at Dry Your Beers. Do you age adjunct stouts? I've read 3 separate brewer interviews lately, each questioning whether most stouts benefit from aging. 2 of them specifically mentioned adjuncts being volatile and dying off easily. It got me worried about my yellow belly stash. Does that mean you've just drunk it all?
In one sitting.
One set, right, I'm not wasting this.
Yeah, I've got to do it now.
All 6 bottles.
The beer he references there is a very interesting one, actually, because I was aging some yellow bellies, and I tried them about a year, 18 months ago, and I thought that the flavours had begun to die off. I thought they had begun to lose that peanut sweetness, the caramel biscuit feel.
So the sort of Snickers bar qualities.
And they had just become, what was underneath was a little bit of an unbalanced stout that maybe wasn't strong enough to hold on its own without those adjuncts. That being said, if I think about what I'm aging at the moment, I know we're both aging one of the Brew York Mocha Man Randy Savage beers, which has got a lot of different adjuncts in it. It will be interesting to see how they develop. I think if you think about one of the biggest stouts out there, Bourbon County Stout, they do variations of that with adjuncts in it that
especially with
age very well.
Especially with the coffee.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that probably part of it would depend on the adjuncts that's been involved in it as well.
I think coffee's always going to continue to age.
I think the sweeter ones, because if I reference one of my beers in my Desert Island, the Rosé de Gambrinus, the fruity notes of that will die off as age comes along. It won't be unbalanced, but it will definitely have settled and matured and feels a bit more complex. Whereas I think Some stouts, personally, I think they do get better with age. And sometimes I've had some stouts which, when I've had them fresh, have actually just been a bit too sweet. The adjuncts have been a bit too much. And because you then get that dying off of the sweet flavours, with some of them you actually get a much more well-rounded, complex, deeper beer. So I think, again, it comes back to the whole aging beers and when do you drink them. I mean, there's definitely an element of luck in there still.
I think there is. And some of that is down to, you know what? You drink them when you want to. That's what you've bought them for.
And my 12 beers, me and Michelle's 12 beers of Christmas, we've definitely dived into the beers which we have been leaving for a while. We said, right, that's the only ones we're choosing from. So they're all free. They're generally all 330, so they're not big bottles, because that's sometimes the thing, isn't it? Sometimes it's a 750, 12%. It's like, I did another one of these last night and another one tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just gone for 330s, but we're doing that because it's about time they got drunk. They need to be drunk.
Yeah, and I think I got to that stage probably almost a year ago now, where I was very much, why am I keeping these beers? I've got to start drinking some of these beers that I'm keeping, because I think I've mentioned it on a show before. You know, I looked at it one of two ways. It's one, I could get run over by a bus tomorrow and never have drunk those beers, but never know about it. Two, my house could burn down tomorrow and I could be fine, but I'm going to know I've lost all those beers and never tasted them. So
yeah, that's worse.
That's much
Sorry,
worse.
the latter one is worse. I mean, I don't want you to die in either scenario, to be fair. Because I never want to do the editing. But you know, to know that you'd lost them all would be gutting.
So I got to a point where I was like, no, I'm just going to start drinking them now. I've got a few now that are tucked away and earmarked and almost stickered with
50th.
These are for your 50th birthday. Do not touch them.
Have you written stickers on there saying, Steve, do not touch these when you're starting to eat cheese at 11 o'clock at night?
Well, it's almost, the first part says, drunken Steve, do not drink these. Love, sober Steve.
Timey-wimey.
Yes. But great questions.
Yeah, as ever, we do love the questions. Just to, keep them coming.
Keep questions coming. Use the hashtag Hopinions. That's how you get on the show.
Final thoughts on the beer, Steve?
I've
actually finished mine.
Yeah,
so
I mean, you're done there, aren't you?
New England IPA, 440 Canberra split. I finished mine. You've almost finished yours. I actually found it a really clean, well-balanced example of the style.
Yep. But the only thing I say is one that very much designed for summer drinking.
Oh yeah. I mean, definitely. This is back to your desert island.
Yeah.
Very striking colours, very bright on the can. You know, oranges, reds, yellows. Definitely makes you feel of summertime. I prefer it to be in a 330. I think 440 was good for sharing, but 440 might have become a bit of a struggle for me.
If I was drinking that on my own, I'd want it 330.
But firstly, thanks again, Chris, for hosting us last time, even though it's the one that got away. Secondly, thank you very much for giving us the beers for this show. And we can't wait to be doing that bonus show in January.
And we will reveal more about that
as we get closer to the time.
As we get closer to it. But we've got quite a lot of exciting shows coming up.
Yeah, we've got a plan.
We have got a plan. So, first of all, let's have a little chat about Crimbo Crawl.
Crimbo Crawl's almost here.
As we release this,
8 days away.
8 days away from heading to Manchester.
8 days away from pre-Crimbo Crawl.
Yeah, well, Crimbo Crawl Eve.
Crimbo Crawl Eve, that's it.
Crimbo Crawl Eve at Beer Nouveau. And can exclusively reveal on this week's show some of the beers that will be available at Beer Nouveau.
Ooh, I know this is
new to you.
This is news to me as well.
So, Steve did drop me a note to say this is what some of what's going to be available. So there'll be the Manchester Green Hop beer, which has been brewed simply to prove that you can grow hops up north. There'll be a beer called Sunny Lowry, which is a pale hoppy English session thing. These are Steve's own words.
Okay.
But by the way, there should also be, so emphasis on the word should here. So there should also be the Heritage Barrel Aging Programme, East India Pale Ale, and potentially some of the East India Porter available.
Which I assume we get to go first.
We obviously. So he's got tapping party this weekend,
Saturday.
If there's some left that makes it to next weekend, we may be able to have some on Crimbo Crawl Eve.
So investors that turn up a week late can have some.
Yes. And then there's the one that we requested, a beer called Not Broadside, which is going into small wooden barrels, and we'll see what comes out. As for the rest, I'll need to see what's in my cold store. I'll see. I've also got some random bottles that might contain some treats, although I don't know because I didn't label them. So, and then I got a follow-up message saying, "Oh, I've just remembered what one of those were because I just opened one, and it was the East India IPA test batch. So I should be able to do a compare and contrast with bottle and barrel-aged versions."
Brilliant.
So that's quite a beer selection for the Friday night of Crimbo Crawl.
Yeah. So
very much looking forward to that.
Put it this way, if you are lucky enough to be one of the people who've signed up on Eventbrite to come to the Marble Arch, I think you'll be quite happy with the bacon sarnies at that point.
I think so. I think so. And of course, that's where the Crimbo Crawl itself will be starting at the Marble Arch.
Yeah. So 11 o'clock on the Saturday, Steve.
For those that have got tickets,
Yes.
people without tickets, Marble Arch opens at 12.
Yes.
We've rejigged a few things, so we're now in the Marble Arch until 1:30. Then we're heading to Cloudwater / Tap, who are currently sharing a space. We're going to do a good 2 hours in there, so people can get their juice on while we're in there, and then we're going to pick up the rest of the route from that point.
Yeah. So we tweaked a few things just because of timings, the fact that it's 3 weeks before Christmas, Manchester Derby, but hopefully the less is more will become. Everyone will be quite pleased with that by the end of the day, I think.
I think so. One thing that we will point out is we haven't included food on the route.
Nope. Well, apart from bacon sarnies, if you're lucky enough to be there between 11 and 12.
But we are working on the basis that you're all grown adults, and if you need to go and get food, go and get food.
And again, as ever, the Crimbo Crawl just tells you where me and Steve will be.
Yeah. You're free to wander off and join us at any point.
No, Steve, you're not free to wander off.
No, I'm going to do my best to stay with the main.
We're going to have the Track My Steve device all up and running. Everyone will give you the password for the app. But no, so again, if you have a few things that we couldn't or didn't include, feel free to go there, but at least you'll know where we'll be and when we'll be there.
Yeah. And then obviously the Monday after the Crimbo Crawl.
Yeah, because of course we need to record with some beer.
We're recording, so we'll be doing a bit of a look back at the Crimbo Crawl. That'll be the next show after this one. Will be
normally we would do it on the morning after the Crimbo Crawl, but logistics this year doesn't quite work for us.
Against us a little bit, hasn't
Again, a few factors, a few bars which may have been possibilities, Christmas parties. Just doesn't quite work out for us. So it may not sound quite as rough and ready as it has done in the past, but it probably still might take a little while to recover.
I think it might, yeah. Show after that is our end of year show, which will actually be out on Boxing Day, which is a first for us as well, because normally we tend to finish up before Christmas and have a few weeks off over Christmas.
But yeah, you get us over the festive period. So if you've had enough with the family, you can listen to us too.
You can listen to us too, talking about things that we've enjoyed this year, our golden pints, and drinking some big old beers.
I've seen the start of that lineup, and it's gonna. I've actually applied to work from home the next day after that recording. I thought, oh yeah, because it's probably one of those evenings where you think, oh, let's just crack open an extra one now.
I think it's going to be one of those evenings because it's what we recorded on the 22nd of December.
No, 19th. Thursday the 19th.
Oh, yeah. So we're recording a bit of a way in advance.
Yeah, I'm going to work from home the next day. So
and of course, being a Thursday night, Thursday's a new Friday,
right, exactly.
Even when you're at home.
Exactly.
And then we've got the Howling Hops thing coming up in January.
Early January.
Which we'll reveal more about probably on that end of year show.
Yeah.
And then we're building to the big one after that, which is #Hopinions 100. Will be out on the 23rd of January, and this is where we want you, our listeners, to get involved. Want you to celebrate the occasion with us. We're not going to reveal what we're doing just yet.
I think we can reveal the day we're doing it, so people want to drink on the day we're recording it.
Yeah, we can do that.
So Saturday the 18th of January.
Yes, we'll be recording
the show. Because it's going to be a big show. It's going to be big beers, so a Monday night recording was not feasible or a good idea. Again, we will share some more details as we get closer to the time. But if you want to get involved, share a beer with us on the day or on the day you listen to the show, please feel free, #opinions100.
Yep, and we'll find that and we'll give you a mention and what beer you're drinking. So, and that will take us up to what will then be kind of our next season going into
start of February. Really.
Yeah.
So we've got plans. We're very excited about them all. Actually, I'm very excited. All of those very different. I'm sure there'll be a few tales to tell after the Crimbo crawl and a few good experiences to share. So, and everyone who listens who's coming to the show, really looking forward to seeing everyone.
Yeah, I'm looking just forward to having beers with people.
Yeah.
Beers and laughs, that's what Crimbo Crawl's about.
Provided you've got your badge on saying, my name is at.
Yes.
So, because not everyone has their picture either, do they?
No, that's the tough thing, isn't it? So that's what we've got coming up.
Yeah, excellent. Really looking forward to it.
In the next few weeks. Final thing to say tonight, one more time, just thank you to Chris at Howling Hops for giving us some takeaway beers from the last failed recording that we tried at the tank bar there. But we are going to rectify that in the new year. Have enjoyed all of the beers this evening.
Varying degrees.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've got. My favourite is the new Old London Porter.
I am with you on that. That's the one that stood out for me. Probably the time of the year thing as well, maybe. But
I think if we're choosing out of the four, I reckon most times of the year probably still win for me.
Yeah, who am I kidding?
Yeah. Porter is not just for winter; it's for life.
This is the man who put a porter on his desert island bar cask lineup.
Exactly. So let's be honest. You like a porter all year round.
Yes, absolutely.
And on that note,
cheers.
Cheers.